Welcome to the module 2 of the Figma Pro Secrets course. In this module, we'll be talking about graphic design with Figma. You know, everything that we see today on websites, in mobile apps, everything has graphic design elements. Yeah, if you take a look at the website, the only difference between a website and a magazine, for example, are just two elements. The first one is interactivity. Yeah, you have more elements of interaction with a website rather than with a poster or, let's imagine, the magazine or newspaper. And the second difference is the website is a digital part that lays under one domain name, while a graphic design element is usually prepared for print. But when we are creating illustrations, it's part of the graphic design. Icons, part of the graphic design. Packages, banners. What else? Let's go with logos. Yeah, all the elements that we create in graphic designs, we can use on web as well. And it's really cool to know graphic design, how to create some graphic design elements, so you can use them not only in graphic design, but also when you're creating websites or mobile apps or TV apps or whatever you are creating. Let me show you an example. So here, take a look at this cover of the magazine. Looks like a cover of the magazine. Minimalistic, pretty empty, has a couple of elements, and that's it. So basically it could be printed. It can be just the cover of a magazine that will be printed. Or it can become pretty easily, it can become a website. It can become a portfolio of this graphic designer, photographer, and minimalist, John Smith. When you add some additional elements of interaction, basically the difference between the magazine and the website will be the method of interactivity in this case. With the magazine, you will need to turn pages, and here on the website, you click to get to the next page. This is the difference between a website, for this particular example, of course, between a magazine of the cover and a website. But when you know, the more you know elements of design in general, of every part, every single direction of design. When we're taking, for example, industrial design, architecture design, interior design, graphic design, the more you will be able to apply all these elements in web design and mobile apps. And it will make you a better designer because you will know more. From industrial design, you will know more about ergonomics. From interior design, you will know more about visual style and about graphic design as well. From architecture design, you will know how to work with resources and also how to put what elements we can put in only in this given space. The more you know, the more you can apply in your life, the more dots you will be able to connect, and the more creative you become. So that's why knowledge of all these different elements will help you. And this module is prepared for you specifically to, of course, to train your design skills in general, in this particular model, graphic design skills, but we will train them so you can apply them in web design and mobile apps later. In this module, you will create a lot, and basically this will be the most probably practical part of this course, because we will create here shapes and mockups, like this box, like these beams on the background. You will create boxes like this, so you will be able to apply them to your designs. And later, for example, when you're creating a banner, a login page, let's imagine you're creating something for a website, and it will be some kind of login screen. And then that login screen will have the image on the left and login part on the right. And this is what will be highlighted on the left side. So when you're creating something for a particular SaaS product, let's imagine, or I don't know, it can be whatever you want, but you will highlight what you're creating it for. And here it will be product name. How cool is that? When you create just this one element and it already looks cool, and then you can change something and you can use it whatever you want on web design, or maybe you are creating a mobile application, and on this mobile application you will have some kind of illustration. Maybe it will be about books or gifts, mobile applications for gifts. And here at the top you will have this illustration or mockup, and below you have a heading, and below that you have some description that will be a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, but it will be description. And then below of all this description, everything, you will have a button, so people see, oh my god, yeah, I wanna have this, I wanna use this mobile application. And then the same element that you learned from the graphic design module, you will be able to apply in web design, in mobile apps. And if you want to, you can put here also your game name. If you are creating a game, UI for the game, then this can be your game UI package. Boom! So all these different elements that you will learn from this module, you will be able to apply absolutely anywhere. And if you want to print them, like just print. You will learn how to create this bevel effect, where the text is pressed inside of the material, or instead it's in front of you. You will know how to create this illustration, these cars like Uber has, or Uber application has. You'll know how to create these Google style illustrations. Why I call it Google style? Because the first time I saw them in Google apps and web apps. You probably saw them as well. There is an amazing guy who creates them for Google, and I decided to share with you how to create this style. You will learn how to create kind of posters or banners, and how to work with colors, how to work with text when you're working with this given space. You will learn how to create mobile app devices, mockups, mobile app devices, mobile tablets, and MacBooks, laptops, device mockups. Then you will learn how to create different patterns. Yeah, it's really will be cool lesson, so you'll be able to create absolutely different patterns. It can be shape pattern or it can be text pattern. And then when you create the text pattern, after that you can put the element in front of it to add additional effect. This is graphic design elements, but you will be able to create it in Figma. You will learn how to work with masks to show that some part of the text is on one background and another one is on another background. How to create fluid backgrounds. What is fluid? It's like when you have these mesh gradients, but at the same time they're moving. You will learn how to create glass effects for different purposes, whether it's you are creating for the content creation or whether you are creating them for your websites or mobile apps. You will learn it from this module as well. How to create book mockups, and like this, if you decide, for example, to sell your digital books, ebooks, then you will be able to create the physical representation of these books after this module. You'll learn how to create cards, like paper ones, and they will look really amazing, and you can use them for when you're creating, for example, gift cards for your friends. You'll learn how to create presentations like this, specifically how to create the presentation like this, and all the elements that you see here basically created out of a couple of shapes, a little bit of text, and all these shapes will create some mockups like these planets, and also these different orbits. It will be mind-blowing. You will love it. Next thing, you will learn how to combine them together. So you will be able to create an element like here with the shadows and also with pattern on the background. And also you will learn how to use them, these patterns and backgrounds, how to create packages first of all, how to create mockups for your products, like packages, boxes for your products, and how to apply them to the presentation that you're creating or for the landing page that you're creating. Basically, all of these elements are part of graphic design, and in this module you will learn a lot about creating these elements. And I see you in the next lesson where we'll start designing some cool things. Let's start our practice. Previously we already had lots of practical lessons in the Figma Pro Secrets module 1. Today we'll create something that you can use in your real life. If you're a graphic designer, if you're a web designer, mobile app designer, anyway, it's always a good idea to practice and create something new. Today we'll create pretty simple thing, but you know what? Once you know how to work with that, once you know how to create some graphic design elements, you will be able to use them in your web designs, in your mobile apps, and as a content creator as well. So let's create a magazine cover with Figma. In order to do that, we will need frame. You already know what is frame, right? Grids, text, and shape. A couple of shapes to put our images. As I already told you in the previous module, when you're working with print materials, when you're creating a print, the frame for print element, let's imagine it's a business card or a magazine cover or newspaper or just anything like that. Just keep in mind the size in inches or centimeters, and after that create similar proportion. You don't have to follow the exact size in inches or centimeters, because in digital world, in design tools, we are working with pixels. And when we are working with vector graphic, it's called point. In this case, we are working with pixels, digital points, if you wish. So magazine cover is generally, the size of the magazine cover is 8 by 11 inches. And in order to do that, we will create a file that will have the same proportions. We'll create a frame that will have the same proportions. Here is the example of what we will create. Graphic designer, photographer, minimalist. This will be like our text, and then we'll have a couple of images. What's the difference? You already know between like graphic design elements and between graphic design and web design. It's interactivity and all these things that we already discussed in the previous lesson. Today, let's create this cover, and it looks pretty simple, but that's the idea. We start with something simple, and then we add more and more and more, and in the end, we know how to create simple elements and how to make them a little bit more complex, and then in the end, you're able to create super complex designs using simple approach, and everyone will tell you like, oh my god, wow, how did you do that? And you know that on the background, because for people it will be like, oh my god, it's so complex, how did you do that? But you know that on the background there are like 5-6 different simple elements that you just mix together, and this is how you achieve that result. Today we'll create this magazine cover. Let's create that. In order to do that, again, remember, we create a frame. This is what we start with. And the frame is same proportions as I said. It's 8 by 11, right? But in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add 2 more zeros to make 800 by 1100. By the way, if you're gonna really print this file, and if you are not creating SVG illustrations instead of photos, my recommendation for you is to go with 8000 by 11000, or at least divide by 2, at least 4000 by 5500. Why so? Because when you start printing materials specifically like this images here, if you don't want to see pixels on the printed material, I recommend you to go with a bigger size of the frame. So when it will be printed, you have enough, you have pretty big resolution. So when it will be printed, there were no pixels visible on that print work. So frame 800 by 1100 in this case. The second thing that I'm gonna create is grid. And I can go with any grid, absolutely. By the way, usually if you are designing absolutely anything, my recommendation, start with content. Content goes first. And content is created by doing all the research, information architecture. Then for each piece of that will be included in the information architecture, you create content. You keep in mind what media materials will be there, videos, images, illustrations. Do you need icons there? You think about it, about each of these elements, and then you think like, what content will be there? What out of this content will be a heading? What will be a paragraph? How many headings, paragraphs, and sections in general I will have? So all these things, you prepare it first. And only after that, once you have content, you understand, okay, for this type of content, and it applies to graphic design, web design, mobile apps, whatever. For this type of content, what columns, how many columns do I need? What exactly do I need for this type of content? In this case, we already, for example, understand, because this course is about design secrets, and how to use Figma for that. So I'm not covering the approach itself, the design approach. In some cases, yes, as you can see, I'm explaining you lots of different things. I give hundreds of different tips while teaching you how to use Figma. But in this case, we already see that, okay, we have text, we have a couple of images. So basically, as I can see on this cover, I can create just 2 columns. Okay, fine, let's create 2 columns. And in order to do that, layout grid, plus, go here, columns, 2 columns, stretch. Yeah, honestly, I can go with stretch and just add spacing from left and right, and it can be 20. Perfect, awesome. That would work for me. Or I could go with center and then just change the size of the columns. It doesn't matter what approach you choose for this case, because we're creating a graphic design element cover, and we don't need to think about responsiveness of this cover, because we are creating a static element that will have a particular limits, that will have a particular size, 800 by 1100. That's it. That's it. So that's why in this case we can go with stretch. We always choose the approach that will be the most efficient for us. If we are working just you, you are the only designer who will be working on this. But if you're working with other people, you're choosing the best, the most efficient approach that will work for you, but at the same time will not ruin the experience of the next person who will be working after you. So in this case, let's imagine we're working just, you are the only designer who is working here. Let's go with this approach where we have the 2 columns, stretch, margin 40, gutter 20. If you don't know the difference between, I recommend you to go to the previous module, Figma Pro Secrets, Figma Fundamentals. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create shape, as simple as that, R, and I'm creating a shape. And because I don't, let's imagine that I don't have to follow particular rules for this cover. I'm just creating shape and of the size, of the proportions that I want to. My main goal that they will follow my grid. That's it. So I'm creating another element here. It will be a little bit bigger. Then I create another column here. And then I put it here. The size, because previously for our grid, we created the margins from left and right 40 pixels, or it will be in inches, 0.4 inches. Let's keep the proportions everywhere the same, like 40, 40, and 40 here. Done. So now when I switch off, Control G to switch on and off grid, I already see like the cover layout prepared for me. What is also great to know when you're creating any design materials, you have to know also how it will be printed, how it will work. Again, this is not the course about graphic design, it's a course about how to use Figma for graphic design. But just keep in mind that sometimes your, for example, left margin should be a little bit bigger, just because, like this, just because then this part will be will go on the side of the magazine, or you need more space for some additional text there. Let's imagine the year when the magazine was printed. Let's simplify everything again because we are just learning here. So in this case, the next thing that we're gonna do, we already created this, prepared this materials. The next thing, we're creating text. I just press T, then I tap somewhere in the space on this column, and then I start typing something like whatever you want, graphic designer, photographer, minimalist. In this case, I'm using Helvetica New, but let's go with something that you are familiar with already or that you have on your computer, and most likely it will be Arial, at least. Arial. And bold. Graphic designer, photographer, minimalist, the size 46. In this particular case, I would set the letter spacing to at least -4%. As you can see, now the designer goes outside of our column. I don't want, for example, that's fine. Visually, that will work absolutely fine. But if you want to go geometrically correct, then in this case, for you, the best idea would be to decrease the letter spacing, or another approach that you could choose also to change the size of the font. In this case, let's go with just -4.5%, and that's it. This is our text. For the line height, I'm using 100, which is also means that it's 46 points. That's basically it. We already prepared our graphic design cover, the final thing that we will do. By the way, you know what I don't like in this particular case? That the spacing here between columns is much smaller than the spacing between elements themselves. So what you can do in this case, in this particular situation, you can increase the Gauda to 40, so you will then just change the size of the photos, and then you have perfectly aligned grid. Another approach that you could have, let's go to our column, and another approach that you can do is to change the spacing between all of these elements to 20, to exactly the same size as Gauda, and that's it, boom, done. When you're working with graphic design elements, usually people use modular grid instead of just column grid. They use modular grid. Modular grid is when you have columns and rows, and intersections of columns and rows create a cell, and this cell is a module. And the number, and when you have like multiple cells combined, then it will be also a module. Let me show you how it works. So let's go to our grid. Let's create another grid here, rows. And in this case, let's imagine, because I have 1, 2, 3, just 3 rows, I can go here with 3. I'll just increase the margin from top and bottom to something that like Okay, 70, that's fine. And Gata is 20 as well. So now what do I have here? I have my image, I have my another image. And so the intersection of the column and row is cell, and when you combine together, let's imagine one cell is a module as well. If we combine and create like these two cells, it's also a module, and that's why it's called modular grid. So let's change the size of our elements so they will sit exactly on our grid. Done. Done. If you are a web designer or mobile app designer, you might see the size is like 307 and like, oh my god, no, the size always should be like 306 or 308, or it's better 310. Honestly, no. When we are talking about graphic design, we don't think in 4 pixels, 8 pixels grid, because we are working in this case in points. And this size, we just have to keep in mind proportions, because the size that we are working with, then it will be printed. It's a completely different approach here. And that's why you use the sizes that follow the grid, and also the grid follows the content that you are creating. Let's get back. Let's get back to our design here. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to change the line height to something different like this. That's almost our cover is created. If you don't like this typeface, change it to whatever you want. If you have, for example, Inter, just change it to Inter, maybe semi-bold, looks cooler. Then select all the images, Command P, unsplash, enter. Here choose something like minimal, for example, and boom, you created your cover. And if you don't like the cover that's because of the, colors that you see here, just select the particular image that you want to change, go to search, minimal, and then choose the images that you want to see here on your cover. Of course, when you're creating a real magazine cover, in this case, you will probably use the photos, the real photos. But because we are learning the tool, we don't have to create a completely real work that I will just take this magazine cover, for example, right now and go and print it and go to a studio that will print it for me and then we'll create a cover, like everything. No, we are practicing here, but by following all these steps, now you understand how to create a cover like this. And in the future, if you want to use something like this for your website, for your portfolio, just follow the same approach. A couple of things to remember here, that the frame size should follow the proportion of the print size material that you are creating. Grid should be defined by the content that you have. In this case, we decided that we just have a little bit of text and a couple of photos. So that's why we created this type of grid, just 2 columns. If you want to follow like modular grid, you just create a modular grid. My recommendation for you is use what works best for you, what makes your process the most efficient. And the final thing, we used here the plugin Unsplash to fill this image with this magazine cover with real images. And as a result, you have a magazine cover created super fast, simple, and easy. And please don't watch this lesson just as a YouTube video. Right now, open Figma and recreate the same stuff. Do the same thing that we just created here in this lesson. The more you practice, the faster you become, the better you become as a designer. And if you don't skip lessons from the fundamental module, Figma fundamentals module, you will become super fast and efficient in using the tool. And then you will focus more on what size of the grid to use, how to work with typography, what exactly the content should be, what type of shapes I'm going to use in this case. This is what you will be focusing more on. And the tool will be super, just the tool for you. And that's exactly what it should be. Figma should become a tool. Because later, for example, when you switch to Sketch or Adobe XD or whatever it comes next, you will be able to follow the same process because you understand the logic behind everything. You will just need to learn the shortcuts, the UI of the new tool, but because you practiced a lot already, you know that everything consists of text, shapes, and it will be probably, again, artboard or frame, because that's exactly how design tools work. And that's it. You just follow the same process. Content, grid, created work. Please follow the steps that we had here and create your magazine cover following the same sizes, like 8 inches by 11 inches. See you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I'll show you how to create patterns, specifically dot pattern. Do you see here on the background these dots on this frame? That's exactly what we'll create today. When you know all the Figma secrets, all the features of it, you will be able to create absolutely anything. Honestly, absolutely anything, just using Figma. It's a super powerful tool when you know all the powerful features it has. One of them I'll show you today. I remember when I was a developer, front-end developer, back like in 2008, 2010, I remember lots of websites had patterns on the background. It wasn't just white solid color or black solid color or just solid color. No, people used patterns. Yeah, like different stripes, different lines, dots, images. So yeah, today I'll show you how to create pattern like this using Figma in just 3 simple steps. With every single lesson, we will increase the complexity. The level will go from easy to medium or intermediate to high to master. By the end of this course, I want you to be master of Figma. And honestly, I want you to become a master of design in general. Because everything that you will learn here today, follow the logic, not just the steps that I'm using, but follow the logic that I'm going through. And once you get this logic, no matter what tool you will be using in the future, you will be able to recreate the same style, recreate the same thing, the same element that you learned from all these lessons of this course. Follow the logic that I will create here. So first of all, okay, we start with a frame. Remember, in this case, it doesn't matter what the size of the frame because we're going to create pattern. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to understand what's the logic behind patterns. Well, the logic is we have some image, we have element, and this element is repeated horizontally and vertically. And that's exactly, by the way, how it works in front end. There is a feature in CSS called background repeat, and it can be repeated just horizontally on X axis, or it can be repeated vertically, or you can repeat it in both directions, vertically and horizontally. And that's exactly how it works. So basically, if we go with if we are not, let's imagine that we are not efficient. We just, oh, I want to create pattern. How would I do that? Well, I need to repeat the element multiple times. How to do that? Well, and it's dot. Well, I'll create dot. I will put it somewhere here, and it will be, let's imagine, 4 by 4 pixels. I want it to be black. And now what I do, I want the distance to be 20 between them. I create one copy, then I create another copy, then I create another copy, then I create multiple copies, then I create copies below, also with the distance 20, multiple times. Then I select the entire thing. Just it will be much easier for me, and duplicate it multiple times here. Then I copy them here, and go below with those. Boom, done. The pattern is created. Dots, done. Next lesson, please. No, of course not. This is if we are not efficient, this is the approach that you can follow. And honestly, that's the approach that I followed when I just started my design journey, when I needed to create repeated elements. That's the approach that I used until I explored Figma further. I opened Figma, and every single time, every single day, I practiced. And I went through every single feature that Figma has and tried to understand, how can I use it? How can I use it? How can I use it? And later, once I understood one thing that Figma has, I realized I can use it to create patterns. So how to do that? Follow step by step what I'm creating. And my recommendation to you, please don't watch this video as a YouTube video. If you want to watch the course as a YouTube video, simply go to YouTube. If you want to actually become a better designer, pause the lesson, open Figma, and follow step by step. Pause, practiced. Pause the video, practiced. Got back, watch the next step, practice. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the more efficient, the faster you become. As you can see, even here, I'm doing this stuff super fast just because I know what to click, what to do. How is it possible? Is it because I'm just fast? No, because I practice a lot, and now I don't think about the tool. I think about the logic. I think about the research. I think about content. I think about layout. I think about design, actual design, rather than by how to do it with the tool, because the tool is just a tool. It allows me to bring my ideas to life. How to create a pattern? Let's do that in just a couple of steps. Step number 1, create a frame that will be repeated multiple times. So when you want to repeat something multiple times, think about what it will be. And in most of the cases, it will be, not in most of it, it's always will be a shape, it will be a rectangle. And here, because we have dot and with an equal size, equal distance between all the dots, so that's why I'm creating a square. It's also a rectangle, but it's a square with the same sides. Then I press O and I create the dot right in the middle of my frame. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to change the size, the color of this dot. And the next thing for this frame, by the way, let's rename it, Command R, pattern. And the next thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn off, just remove completely fill layer for the frame. Boom. So we have a transparent background of the frame, and we just have dot here in the middle. The dot is 4 by 4. The size of this element is 20 by 20. And the next thing that I'm gonna do, I duplicate it. Later I'll show you why. Then I go here, object. At the very top, if you don't see the top panel in this video, what I clicked at the very top where you have file, edit, view, object. Click object. And then in the drop down, you will see rasterize selection. Click on that. And now your frame is converted into an image. Now it's an image. And as any other image, the fill layer of this layer is an image. And what I do next, I click here and press between the image preview and the edge of the right sidebar. I click, so it's selected now. I press Command C, so you see what I clicked. I select the frame now and press Command V. And now this dot was added as an image, as a fill layer to our frame. And this is what it looks. Not the pattern, right? But if you remember the lesson about fill panel from the module 1, Figma Fundamentals, you know that you can go to image and select here tile. And boom, you have pattern, dotted pattern on your frame. Super fast and easy. In just a couple of steps, you created pattern. How simple is that, right? Then you can play with the opacity of this pattern, so it will be just on the background. You can create paper, kind of paper effect, you know, dotted paper for your frame if you want to. If you want to change the size of the pattern, how does it work, by the way? Tile 100%. When it's 100%, what does it mean? It means that the size of this tile is exactly the size of the image that you took it from. And if you remember, we created the pattern of 20 by 20, and then that's exactly 100% is 20 by 20. If I set 50% here, then the size of the tile will be 10 by 10. 10 by 10. It means that more elements of 10 by 10 will fit in the frame. If I set 100 by 100, less elements. And because of that, you see that the size between them is a little bit bigger. Can we go further? Can we make it even bigger? 100%. We can, not 100%, 500%. Let's go with 100%. Boom, done. But what's the problem with that? When you go more than 100%, you lose quality. You see, now you see pixels here. How to avoid that? How to make it perfect, still perfect? Or how to make the distance between these dots bigger, but at the same time keep the high quality. You see, now it's 100 by 100, but the dots are pixelated and the entire frame doesn't look cool. So what we can do, remember I told you to create a copy out of the first frame. So now I create another copy here. And for this frame, I'm changing the size to 100 by 100. Done. And I'm changing the size of this dot to, let's imagine, 10 by 10. And now out of this element, I create rasterize selection. I create an image. Command C. By the way, you can press Command Option C to copy this style. Command Option V to paste the style here. Just add the background to a frame. And now change it to tile. So now 100% will be 100 by 100. And the quality, as you can see, only when I really close, like this is 100% view, the quality is the highest one. And what else I can do, I can go with 50 by 50%, 50 by 50, by 50%. So the size is 50 by 50 points for the pattern. And this is the pattern that we just created. And if you remember, we are not using the background here, just because when we select our frame, now I can change the background to anything else I want to. And the dots will be black on the pattern, on the background that you create here. We have just one frame without any layers inside of it. But look what we have on the background already. If you ask anyone to repeat, and just ask anyone to create this without following any lessons, they will not be able to do that without layers. And most likely without copies, without copying each dot. So that's why you just became much better, much faster, much more efficient designer who uses Figma as a pro, like a pro. So now you know how to create this pattern. In the next lesson, I'll show you how to create a little bit more complex pattern, like Gucci style pattern, like text patterns. And I'll also show you how to create really super complex patterns that you might saw on Viber, Telegram, any messenger, WhatsApp. On the background, when you talk to someone, on the background, you see not just a solid color, most likely, but you see the pattern, like icons, different icons. This is what you will learn how to create, because it's a little bit harder to create them rather than just these dots here. So please follow this practice, follow the steps that you learned here, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Now I want to show you one additional thing that might be helpful for you when you will be working with patterns. Well, in the previous lesson, I showed you how to create the dot pattern, where the dot right in the middle of the frame. But what if, by the way, let's recreate the previous pattern, and I'll show you the problem with that pattern. So what we're gonna do, we create, in this case, let's say modern 40 by 40 frame. Inside of it, we create dot 4 by 4. The color is black. By the way, let's make it brown. Like this. We are removing the color. Duplicate object, rasterize selection, Command Option C, Command Option V, add color, put it here, white, 100%, and for the image tile, done. So we just created this dot pattern. Perfect, looks great. But when we look here, the pattern starts not from the corner here, but the pattern starts exactly where we created it, inside of our tile. So if we have this frame here and we have the dot right in the middle, so it means that the distance that we have here will be here. So basically, it starts from that point. But what if you wanted to start exactly from here, from this corner, and maybe you need it exactly for your graphic design, whether you are creating a notepad, or maybe you want to create a dotted paper for yourself instead of buying every single time to buying notebooks, dotted notebooks. Maybe you love using the dotted paper to create wireframes, to create your ideas, to draw something. Maybe you need it for your students' work, maybe you need it somewhere else, no matter where. But you just wanted to start not from without space between the edges, but you just wanted to start from the corner so it goes exactly from the top and left side. How to do that? The idea is absolutely the same. The only difference will be that we will put our dot here. And as you can see now, I see only one sector of it. Well, it's just because I have a frame and clip content here. This is what I have. But when I put the dot here and I move it to the other side, now I select both and move it down. Too fast. Move it down. Now I have these 4 sectors here. How to understand if your pattern will look exactly what you want it to look? Well, just take the frame that you created with the pattern that you created and duplicate it right here and put each frame one after another one this way. Boom. And now, as you can see, it means that when I have 4 tiles staying one by one, I will have dot right in the middle between them, the entire dot, and everything else will be on the edges of my frame that I will create. Cool, awesome. So it means that that's exactly what I need. So I select this frame, I duplicate it, object, rasterize selection, copy this tile from here, select here, paste, remove the previous one, tile, and now I have dotted paper that starts exactly from the top left corner here, and I see how the dots are moving and everything sits perfectly. So basically this is how you can create your own dotted paper for yourself, then print it. Now you have it. By the way, that's exactly the notebook style that I'm using. I want to show you that that's exactly what I'm using. The paper here, maybe you don't see it because of the small size of that, but that's the paper and dots here. Yes, I'm using notebook, but long time before, when I didn't know about these notebooks, what I did, I created the dotted pattern at work. I printed it, and then I had all the dots that I needed, and it was so much easier for me to create any other work, like wireframes for my websites or mobile apps that I designed. So that's the pattern that you can follow, and this is the thing, this additional technique, the additional piece that I wanted to share with you when you are creating patterns. So keep it in mind that you can create the dotted pattern when you have not the dot, but the combination of multiple tiles will create the dot right in the middle, like here. But everything will start from the top left corner. All right, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next lesson where we'll create a triangle pattern. I first saw it on the Macallan website. Macallan was one of my clients when I worked in the agency, and I saw that pattern on their website, and I realized that in the mobile application and in the tablet application that I'm going to create for them, I'm going to use the same pattern, because it creates, first of all, luxury look and feel, but at the same time it also follows their brand. And when people, for example, use that mobile application or tablet application, they understand that, oh, that's Macallan, and this is the perfect match between the website and the print materials that they have, and also the mobile application and the tablet. So that's why I decided to show and share with you how to create triangle patterns. See you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we'll create a triangle pattern. It will look like this. Take a look here. We have 2 triangles, one that is pointing up and it's lighter, and one that is pointing down that will be a little bit darker. Exactly what you see here. This is the first time I saw this pattern on the Macallan website when I designed the mobile application tablet application for them. This is where I decided to follow that brand that they created long time ago. So I decided I have to use in these applications that I'll create this pattern on the background as well. How to create that? Well, let's also focus not on only how to, but also on the logic behind it. First of all, when you want to create a pattern, try to understand what it consists of. What exactly creates a pattern? Let's take a look at this example here. So we have just triangles. What shapes can I create so when they are repeated, I will have this pattern like here? What can I do? Let's take a look. What exactly is repeated here? Well, we have dark triangle, we have light triangle. Maybe I just can create a rectangle that has half of the dark triangle and half of the light triangle. Well, let's start. Let's go, by the way, let's go with this logic. Let me show you exactly what's happening, because in this case you will remember how it works and what to look at and how to understand how to create patterns. And it will honestly, it will make you more creative, but you will also I'm pretty sure that you will create new connections in your brain that will make you more creative. So how to create this triangle pattern? Let's imagine that we decided that, okay, because we have dark triangle and light triangle, what if we will create exactly a light triangle and dark triangle? That's it. Let's create that. What the size of them should be? Well, it's just practice, so we don't have to be precise, but let's create something. First of all, let's start with something, and then we will make some changes. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the shape polygon triangle. Okay, and the size of this triangle should go from top to bottom of my frame. In order to do that, because I don't want to see this bounding box, I just press Command E, and now I just have a triangle. It will be much easier for me to work with that. So I'm increasing the size, boom, done. And this is my triangle. I'm gonna have 34 by 30, perfect. And it will be the light version, okay. Now I press Command D to duplicate it. I can rotate it now to flip it, but what I'm gonna do, because I wanna teach you, again, efficiency, just press Shift V and you will flip the object that you created vertically. If you want to flip it horizontally, you will not see it on the triangle. Then Shift H. So let's create another triangle here. That will be dark. I can copy the color from here. And let's create another triangle on the other side here, right? Now, because I don't need these pieces in the bottom left and bottom right corners, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change the size of our frame to here. So that's basically, well, pretty similar, something similar. I'll keep it light still so we can see it better. How to, again, remember how to check if that's exactly the pattern that we need. You just duplicate the frame one time to the right and then both of them to the bottom. And that's not what I need. That's not what I need. It doesn't follow the exact pattern that I see here. The first one, yes, but the second, when I go vertically, it doesn't follow the pattern. So it means that I have to go also down. So horizontally, everything works perfectly. Now I need to create the style that will work also, the pattern that will work also vertically. In order to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to increase the height of it to 60, from 30 to 60, so 2 times. And now I'm going to take all these shapes, move them down, but now Shift V to flip them. The only thing that I will make in this case, I will change the colors. I'll flip the colors. So these triangles will be light and this triangle will be dark. So what I just did, I just decided to, what if, so horizontally everything works perfectly. What if I create like the pattern that consists of 2 rows? So I created the next row for this pattern. Now let's try to duplicate it. Well, horizontally everything works perfectly. Now let's move it down. Let's take a look how it works vertically. Oh wow, that's exactly what I need. So I remove all this version. Now I can convert this element into a pattern. Always remember to make a copy first. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to change the color of these triangles to exactly the color that I have here. It's a little bit, as you can see, darker. Now, out of this frame, I create object, rasterize selection, Command C for the image, Command V here. Now I see this weird thing before I change it to tile. And let's set to 100%. And that's the tile that we just created. Out of just a couple of triangles, following the idea, the logic, how the pattern works. Pattern is always something repeatable that repeats itself horizontally and vertically. And in the end, we have this incredible, beautiful pattern here. And later we can again add some, I don't know, on top of this thing, because currently we have not a transparent background for our frame, but we have colors. So basically we don't need the fill color for the frame, for the initial frame where we are applying our pattern to. And it means that on top of that, I can add something like gradient, linear gradient that goes from top to bottom, but I'm going to change the direction of the colors. And I'm going to change also the opacity of the entire fill layer to 100%. And this is how I can achieve this effect where we have pattern, but at the same time on top of the pattern we have this gradient. I'm changing the opacity now. And here when I start, by the way, why I'm typing in a camel case, start typing your brand name. And because we have this luxury pattern, usually for the luxury patterns, people are using the brands that have serif typefaces. So in this case, let's go with something serif, alt standard TT. By the way, that's the closest typeface. If you're designing something for Mercedes, that's the closest typeface that Mercedes at least used a couple of years ago. So we have regular, perfect. Let's just change the size to something smaller, because usual luxury brands use small sizes of letters to make people actually pay attention, to get closer to the brand, to get closer to what they taught, to show that they put so much attention to every single detail that they can create even small elements that look beautiful. So that's why we are going with something smaller when we're designing like luxury brands. Your brand name, and by the way, you remember what we created before? Shift X in the first module. Let's go with 4 here, star, right in the middle, exactly like this. The only thing that the count will be 3. ratio smaller, Command G in this case. This is how you can create your graphic design work using patterns. So initially we create pattern, and maybe you think, yeah, but where can I use patterns? Well, somewhere like here, not the brand name, but Mercedes. Cool, right? So the more you know about design, the more you know how to create something, the more efficient you become, the faster you become, and the better designer you become, and the more you can create in your life. So that's why my initial idea was to create a course that will help you to design absolutely anything, to create absolutely anything. And Figma allows to do that. And even if, let's imagine that in the future we have some other design tools, follow the logic that you learned from this course and apply it in the new tool that we will be using, if that tool allows you to do that. By this moment, in my opinion, Figma is the most powerful tool. It allows you to create almost anything. I'll show you that you can even imitate 3D objects right here in Figma. So learn, practice, recreate the pattern, something like this. Don't like linear, play, always practice, see what you can do. Boom, vignette effect right here in the middle, 100%, boom. Mwah! Looks incredible, looks cool. Please practice and recreate this pattern. And I'll see you in the next lesson where we'll create one more pattern that you might use somewhere else. Let's go to the next lesson. Now you understand the idea behind all these pattern creations. And I want to show you a couple of more examples. We'll create 3 more different patterns that will help you to be super efficient in patterns, and you'll be able to create absolutely any like banner, or maybe like a pattern for a luxury brand, or even a pattern for messengers. I'll show you how to create them. We'll go, as you can see, we go from the easiest way of creating patterns, and then they become more complex and complex and complex, and the final one will be the most complex pattern that you can only imagine. But once you learn the complex one, you will be able to create absolutely any pattern as you want. Today we'll be talking about text or logo patterns, because as you know, when you go to, if you go to, or maybe you just watch on TV some different, I don't know, UFC conferences, or Formula One, or maybe it's Oscar, or just any film festival, you will see that when we have a celebrity, when we have a famous person, usually during the photo shoot they have a sponsor's banner behind them, where you can see different logos of people who are sponsoring this event, and not people but companies. But also it can be just text that provides additional information. So when people see the celebrity through the peripheral, eyesight, they also see what's behind this person, and because of that, it increases brand awareness. How to create that? Let's take a look at these examples here. So here we have 2 examples of the patterns. The first one with a logo, then shop with logo, which is shop with Google, which is text and logo, and then we have another logo. Here we have just logos, but it could be just text. And we will start with the text first, because sometimes logos are just text version of the logo is a text itself. So we'll create the text pattern first, and then I'll show you how to use the same approach for logos. How to create that? Remember that the idea is still the same. What we will do right now, we'll take a look at this example here, where we see that the text, that the logos go in one line under 45 degrees. We don't have to follow this 45 degrees concept, but the idea that we'll have 3 logos, like 1, 2, 3, and then they repeat. So that's basically the pattern. And this is what we'll create. So let's create, first of all, the frame 300 by 300. It will be just easier for us because we are using 3 logos that will be rotating, or 3 pieces of text that will be rotating. So it's better to create something that is divisible by 3. The next thing that I'm going to create, honestly, you can use just simply layout grid and to create columns, 3 columns, stretch, margin 0, gata 0. So we have 2 lines here. We can increase the opacity of them. And then we'll create another one. So I'm selecting Command D, going to rows, and now I have same rows. As you can see, in just a couple of clicks, we boom, created this grid, which is 3 by 3 pieces, 100 by 100 pixels. Now we'll create the first logo here, logo 1. Of course, I'll make it a little bit smaller, maybe 60 is too big, 20. Yep, something like this. You know what? I'll make it even smaller, like 16, perfect. So this will be our first logo that will go here. The second one will go here, and the third one will be in this area. 3 logos. We'll just use 3 logos. We'll also make the differentiation between them. We'll make them like they will be different color. Logo 1 and logo 2, like that. Perfect. So now I take these 3 logos and I copy them, duplicating, selecting all 3 of them here, and now just rotating. So I know that now if we're rotating these logos, so now the approach should be this. Logo 3 goes first and logo 1 and 2 goes next. Now I'm selecting these 3 and I also change the position of them. So now logo 2 should be the first one. So it goes the first one, and logo 3 goes here. That's basically it. We just created the concept for our text button. Now I'm creating another option, because if I want to make changes, I want to know that when I make changes, I can get back to them easily. So I remove the fill color, go to object, rasterize selection, boom, the button is created. So now if I create just anything here, I copy this button that we just created, change the style to tile 100%, and boom, you see logo 1, logo 1, logo 1, logo 1. This is how it works. In just a couple of steps, we created super fast this button that consists of 3 logos. And then later, if you want to, here I have the picture of myself, but of course you can put yourself or your product or just anything, and boom, you created the banner, the sponsor's banner, or maybe it's something that presents your products on the background, and it will look like that. If for you it looks like, oh my god, it's still the same, well, it's just because we use the same typeface, the same text. When the text is different, it will be different. But if you want to add a little bit more space on the background in this button, what we can do, honestly, we can create the what I call like checkmate button. This is where I'm going to change the size of this button to this, and I'm going to remove logo 1 and logo 1 from here, and now this will be my button. I also remove fill color, object, rasterize selection. Now copy, select this, remove the previous one, paste, tile 100%. And as you can see, now I have more white space all around. It's much easier to see all these logos, but at the same time, it has a little bit more like luxurious look because now we have more space. Now I want to show you. That's it. Just follow these examples and you will be able to create patterns using. You see, I use the text logo here, but you can use whatever you want. You can use design legends. Let's imagine 2 words, and for this one we will use Art Design Academy. And for Art Design Academy, I'm going to use something like Bodoni. Boom. Awesome. Book color. Amazing. And Design Legends will be a little bit smaller just to have the same visual style. Right now, this grid doesn't help me at all because now I have 2 by 2 and I want to make sure that my words are exactly in the middle of the screen here. So I remove the previous button, create a new one, object, rasterize selection, copy, paste, remove the previous one, tile, 100%, boom. Art Design Academy, Design Legends. As you can see, it looks just mind-blowing. In just a few clicks, you learned how to create this luxurious pattern. This is not like the pattern that we'll create for luxury brands yet. This will be in the next lesson. But this is really cool example of how we can create this example, this pattern with text. The same idea will be, let's create something here. Here I created prepared for you a couple of logos. And these are the logos of the companies. Students from these companies joined already Art Design Academy. They're learning with you. So just keep in mind that you are not alone here. You are not the only person who is learning all these pro secrets that I'm showing you with Figma. People from all these companies do the same. Now let's create like real logos pattern. And in this case, I'll show you just a little bit different example of creating patterns. So right now it will be 450 by 450. It's still divisible by, easily divisible by 3. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to, instead of using the example that we used before, you know what, I'll make it 600 by 600. I think it will be much easier for us to work with. Instead of using grid, I want to show you another example of how you can create pattern space. Just create rectangle, no matter what size you are creating it. Duplicate it 2 times, so you have now 3 squares. You can change the color of one of them to something different so you see the difference. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to, by holding Shift, to increase the size of these guys. And I'm going to duplicate it one more time, Command D. But in this case, I'm going to change the color of these guys, something different. So it can be already a pattern itself, like a checkmate board. But I created it specifically for one reason, to show you how easily align elements when you're creating patterns like 3 by 3, 2 by 2, 4 by 4. So let's take a couple of logos from here. So I'm taking Vimeo, then it will be Discovery, and maybe Amazon. Something like that. Perfect. So now I know that when I try to align this element here, it will be perfectly aligned within this square. So I can even select both of them, Option H, Option V, select together, Option V, Option H, and this is how I can align these elements together. You know what? I'm going to replace this logo with something different. using variants because these logos are created with variants. So now they look a little bit different to each other. So we have like a text mark and we have also a logo mark. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate them. Now the process is the same as the previous one. Now I'm duplicating them, make some changes here, and I'm selecting all of them from here, and now Vimeo should be here and Amazon should be the last one. Okay, like that. Perfect. Done. Now I'm selecting all the rectangles that I created before. I created them just for the alignment. I can group them together, hide them. In addition to that, I copy. I hide the fill color, object, rasterize selection. Now we have this button here. Copy, paste, change to tile. And now you have a perfect board of like a sponsorship banner where sponsors can promote the event. And if the person will be somewhere here, this is what we'll have on the background. And what's cool about that, if you change the constraints, like I'm not explaining constraints here, as you can see variants and everything, because we covered everything in detail perfectly. Every single detail we covered in the Figma fundamentals module, in the very first module of this course. So if you are not familiar with them, please go and rewatch the videos. And now, oh yeah, the constraints, I'll put this photo to the bottom. So now when I'm changing the size, let's imagine that I want to create something for my Instagram stories, then it will be like that. Another example that I'm creating, it will be for my, let's imagine, YouTube video, and then it will be like this. Another example will be a square option for something squarish, yeah, like that, for something like a post on Twitter or LinkedIn. So as you can see, just by creating this button and putting everything, using constraints, using variants, using sometimes even components, you can achieve really mind-blowing results in just a few clicks. This lesson is pretty short, as you can see, but we already created so much. You know already so much. Can you imagine? Yeah, like I started using this word all the time, design legends, but mostly because I creating design legends here. You're a design legend because everything that you already created is incredible and unique. Everything that you created has your own style. But at the same time, after these lessons, after this course, Figma Pro Secrets course, you will become a real design legend because you will be able to create so much just in a few clicks. Your boss, your manager, your client, other designers who are working with you will be mind blown by your abilities to create such great, incredible things. Cool, right? And I want to show you just the final example here. By following the same things, the same steps, I created this button for my academy. So here I have the logo of the academy. Then I have this like a text that is showing what this product is about, like Figma Pro Secrets. It's about design legends. This is who I'm creating here. And I Design Academy because this is the name of the academy. And 2023, this is when this specific lesson is recorded and created for you. And then by following the same idea, so we have 3 elements. There could be only 2 if you want to. By having 3 elements, I have this button, and then I applied this button to the next frame, and this is what I have. This frame also has a gradient here that goes from top to bottom. So that's why you can see like light comes from top left corner to the bottom. And now if I take this photo from here and put it somewhere in front, again, the same constraints, it will be somewhere here. I'll make it a little bit bigger. I'll put it on one side, for example. So now it looks like a real board, and also I can make it a little bit, just a little bit darker, like that, to highlight the photo specifically a little bit more, to show that this is the background and this is the foreground. And in addition to that, if you want to go a little bit further with your creativity, then what I recommend you to do, create an additional like rectangle here that covers the entire frame. And the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna change the color to white, the transparency to 1, effects, background blur. And now for the background blur, I'll set something really like tiny, like 2. And now, as you can see, sharp image on the foreground and blurry image on the background to create this effect of realism in this case. So I'm gonna put this guy here. Now when I change the size to something like this, I'll make a photo a little bit bigger, like that. And now I can use it for my, for example, YouTube thumbnail. And here it will be how to create stunning patterns with Figma. And here the size will be something like 140. How to create stunning patterns with Figma. It goes here, goes behind me, just to create this additional effect of, you know, depth of like to create realism here, where we have a foreground with a photo, then the text in the midground, and then on the background we have that pattern. The only thing that I don't like about that pattern yet, so first of all, this image should be different constraints, that I still see clearly the background, so probably the background blur will be something like 4 to highlight this area. And I'm going also for the frame to change, to make it a little bit darker, the background. So this is how we create thumbnails using all these techniques that you saw here. The text is going right on my face, so that's why it's better to do something like this. Boom, perfect. And now you know how to create that. How cool is that, right? Yeah. So in the next lesson, I'll show you how to create luxury brand style buttons like Louis Vuitton or Gucci. You'll understand how to create them yourself if your clients, for example, Gucci or Louis Vuitton. I worked with a couple of luxury brands and it was a pleasure for me. And also it was really cool to see that these guys actually know so much about design, about psychology of design. Specifically, it's not about digital design, it's about how it feels. And all of them have patterns, and patterns add additional, you know, the feeling of something real, something that comes from the real world. And this is why patterns are so cool. So how to create them, you will learn in the next lesson of this course. See you, design legend, in the next lesson. If you take a look at different luxury brands, you will see that most of them have patterns. Yeah, they're using them everywhere, on their products, in their websites, on their banners, like almost everywhere. Take a look here, this example from the Louis Vuitton website, and as you can see here, we have some products, and this product has a pattern, this product has a pattern. Then take a look here, this is also a pattern, and on the background here is also a pattern. As you can see, they use them everywhere. Now let's take a look at Gucci. Gucci also has their own pattern, and you can see it. you can see it clearly that this is the pattern on all of these products. Even this is a pattern. Let's take a look a little bit further. Getting back to Louis Vuitton. As you can see, this is also a pattern in the product itself. It's different now. It doesn't have these L and V here, but we have Louis Vuitton words, and the rest of it is just like checkmate pattern here. Awesome, right? But how to create one? Well, we will use the same. You already know how to create, for example, this checkmate pattern. But how to create, for example, the Louis Vuitton pattern like here, or Gucci pattern like this? Well, we'll use the same approach that you already learned from the previous lessons, but here we'll create just a little bit more. This type of patterns is a little bit more complex. So in this case, you have to keep in mind some additional things when you're creating them. Well, first of all, let's create something that is a little bit more predictable, like Gucci. In this case, if you take a look, we have G, G, then we have two squares on all the sides, and then we have G, 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 G everywhere else. So then the pattern is repeatable. How to create this? Well, let's start creating. First of all, we are creating our frame for our pattern. In this case, the size doesn't matter because the main idea, we create the pattern first and then we find the right size for the frame that will dictate the pattern that we'll have. So first of all, we'll create G, and for this G, we will use something, maybe Robotos Lab. Let's take a look. Not the same. Interesting. Maybe Bodoni. Cool. D dot. Amazing, but still not Gucci style. We're not going to recreate exactly the same style. What we're going to do here is we're going to understand the idea behind it. So in this case, let's use D dot in this case. Yeah, why not? So we have G. Let's create another G. Shift H, Shift V. Now we rotated this letter as well. So now we have two G's. Looks like that. Looks already cool, right? Specifically if you put them exactly so they like go one after another one. Yeah, perfectly. Probably this will be a little bit better. Perfect. So now we have two G's here. The second thing that I'm going to create squares, two squares from all of the sides. But before that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the copy just in case. I always create copies just in case when I create something, because if I want to make some changes later, I will know how to do that. Now I have these two letters. Now I press Command Shift O to transform these two letters into shapes. As you can see now, they're shapes. And the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to press Command E to combine them together into one shape. Create it. Again, Figma fundamentals, everything is there. Now I can put it exactly in the middle of the screen because I know that they will have almost, at least almost the same distance from the edges of the screen. Next thing that I'm creating is these additional squares like that. Same color. Now Command G to create a group out of it. And the next thing that I'm going to do, Command D, Shift H. Done. Now I select both of them, duplicate, and I press Shift V. Done. So we just created this pattern. Looks already incredible, awesome. The only thing that I just want to check that we have the same distance from the letter itself. In order to do that, I'm going to put it right here and this side right here. Perfect. And the next second thing, okay, it touches the area. Perfect. Now I'm increasing the size of the frame just because I need a little bit more space. And now I understand that if I create a pattern right out of it, it will not work exactly as I want it to be. Let's check. Let's see. What if I'll do that? By the way, as far as I remember, I made like 5, 5. No, let's make 4, 4. The distance between 4, 4. So it will be easier for us later to, for example, divide it by 2. Done. So now I take this frame, I change the size. If I create a pattern out of it, object, rasterize selection, Command C, put it here and put it as tile, this is what I'll have. And that's exactly not what I wanted to have, right? Even if I do this stuff, and that's exactly why I changed the distance between them to 4, 4, like that. If this will be our pattern now, putting it here, removing the previous one, tile. As you can see, not the same. Why? Because G and G should be connected, so they should connect all these patterns together. So in order to do that, what I have to do, this is another example that I created. You can create it later yourself. So I'm going to increase the size of my pattern. I take this shape, and now I put this shape, boom, here, here, because remember, we measured that it connects the letters exactly from each side. So in this case, I'm grabbing them both together and attach them exactly here. Done. And the next thing that I'm going to do, it seems like these G's are outside of our frame, so I'm bringing them back. And the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to change the size of this pattern to the point where we have exactly the intersection of these, like the middle and center point of these G's. Like that. So it's exactly, as you can see, the intersection of these G's. Perfect. So now I have a pattern. Only now. The next thing that I can do, I can remove all these groups from here, select everything that I have, and now I can change the color of these letters to anything else like that. Done. Now copy, remove the fill layer. What exactly the color that I'm using? Okay, let's use that. By the way, I can combine everything together into one shape, Command E. Now, when I select the frame, inside of the frame, oh, I selected the entire frame. No, I just need all the elements inside. Yeah, Command E. Perfect. And this is our Gucci-like style. We'll just call it G brand pattern. Like that. Now I change the color to something else. Let's imagine that it will be a little bit like pinkish, like that. Awesome. And now when I create a frame and I copy it, rasterize selection, copy the image, paste here, change it to tile. As you can see, they all connect everything perfectly together. And you might be asking why I decided to remove the fill from here. Well, because now it allows me to change the background color of this frame to anything else, including the original color from here. And as you can see now, this, oh my god, this pink doesn't look good. And that's the reason why it's always a great idea to have the initial design like that. Now when I have this frame, this is our G style button done. Now I take the color from the original version, which is a little bit like brownish, and now out of it I remove the fill color, object, rasterize selection, copy, remove the previous one, paste, change to tile, boom, you have this pattern created. The pattern that doesn't look so obvious, like checkmate box, you know, doesn't look as obvious as in the previous example where we had for everything, you know, like just 3 elements, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Then we just rotate them. In any case, I would say it's checkmate pattern. In this case, we have something more complex. And we are going, as you can see, lesson by lesson, we are going to more complex and more complex things. In the next lesson, you will be mind blown because the technique that I'll show you in the next lesson, this is something completely different. Something that will allow you to create absolutely any pattern. Honestly, it will be mind blowing. But take a look at this example that we created today. As you can see, I'm changing the size and everything is exactly how we would like it to be. And let's imagine that later you want to use it. Maybe you are working with a luxury brand and you created a pattern for them like that. Maybe you can make it a little bit smaller like this. And later you are creating a sign up screen for them. And here you will have, you know, the fields to put email, password, forgot password. So basically you will create the login screen for this brand, or maybe you'll create something like, just give me a moment, description. And for the description, we will use something sans serif. In this case, let's go with, what do we have here? Like Helvetica, regular, really tiny, like that. Just a little bit smaller size. Whoop. Convert it into a frame, put it in the middle of the screen, and here you'll have the button, something like subscribe to get, like, you know, usually all these e-commerce brands have something like subscribe here and get 10% off. And for the color of the button, sign up. And of course it will be sans serif. Again, something like, these are not real sizes in this case, but just an example so you can understand what's happening here and how you can use, once you created a pattern, how you can use it for your next projects when you're creating something. For e-commerce brands, for websites, for mobile applications, for products themselves, because it's not necessary that you have to use it for digital product. You can use the same approach for creating banners. In this case, just keep in mind, if you're creating something for print, always test the colors when you print something, because Figma creates everything with RGB color, and for printing we will use CMYK. And additional thing, when you're creating a pattern for print, create them really huge, like really the pattern itself, like this, it should be huge. So in this case, you can scale it down, it will stay sharp and crisp, exactly how it should be when it's printed. So keep it in mind, and this is what you can create. Mind-blowing, right? The second thing what you can do, and this probably will be like it will be complex, a little bit hard probably, but really great homework for you. There is no, you don't need to send it anywhere to check, but create it for yourself. Create the pattern like this for Louis Vuitton. You can decide what exactly will be the part of the pattern, because as you can see in this case, the pattern is, it's hard to predict, like, I don't see the logo anywhere else. So what's the pattern should be then? Well, you can set the pattern from this dot to this one, for example. Oh, let me change it to, you know what, to red, Shift X, and 100%. So this can be your pattern. Or maybe you will go a little bit like, you know, oh, it's too hard, it will take too much time for me to create a pattern. So maybe this will be your pattern, like just these flowers and that's it. Depending on you, just go and create this pattern. And once you created it, your brain will understand the logic, the exact logic behind it, and then you will be able to create absolutely anything. How cool is that? Right? This is how you become a design legend. By learning more and more and more. And the more you know, the more confident you become. Because now when you need to create a project, you're like, what elements should I create? And you immediately in your head, like, I'll create this, that, and that, and that, and boom, boom, boom. And you have a picture just by, during the meeting, you already can have a solution. Specifically, if you worked a little bit more with brands and you understand also the business metrics behind it, you also understand how it will work with all other products of this brand. So if you understand the entire picture, nothing will stop you. This is how you become not only just a senior designer, but principal designer, and maybe design director, because you already know how to create that. But usually design directors, they direct, they don't create. And principal designers, they create, like seniors and staff designers. So I want you to get to the highest level you can, to reach your potential, your design potential. So please, by following these lessons, now go and create the pattern like this for Louis Vuitton or Louis Vuitton style. You don't have to show it anywhere, because this is just for learning purposes. We're not using it as a real product, as a real thing, because it's not good actually to copy someone else's work or someone else's logos and everything. But if you can learn from it later, if they will be your client, you'll know exactly what to do. For this example, I just want to give you some additional tips. So for the logo, you can use D-dot typeface. For L, use italic. For V, use regular. Just put it like that. This will be your letters. And for these flowers, for example, what you can do, just simply create the ellipse like that. And then go to the edit mode, put these dots, remove them, then create a copy, duplicate, rotate, then combine them together, Command E, and create a circle in the middle and subtract. So this is how you create flowers. This is how you'll create flowers. And for these guys, also what I recommend you to do is take the flower that you already created, then take the shape star, create it from the middle, make the count 4, a little bit bigger, edit mode, radius. Now select both shapes, and in this case what do we need? We need the exclude selection. Now we just created another flower. So as you can see, just in a couple of steps I created all these flowers, and if I want to create this one, I already know how to create it in just a couple of steps. In Figma Fundamentals, take a look at the Boolean group, Boolean operators, and how to use them. They will help you a lot to understand the logic behind it, and go and practice. Now go and create this flower, create all these patterns yourself, and create the pattern. Create later the frame, put this pattern on the frame. Take a photo of yourself, put it on the image, and enjoy. Enjoy the results that you achieved. This is mind-blowing, guys. I honestly, if you go through that, if you're already at this point and you went through all the lessons and you practiced, I'm super proud of you. You are a design legend already. Later will be somewhere a little bit harder, somewhere a little bit easier, but at the same time, every single moment, every single time, every single lesson will teach you something new, will teach you something incredibly creative, and will make you much more efficient and confident. See you in the next lesson. And I'm super happy to see you on the next lesson. We'll be talking about complex patterns. The technique that I'm going to show you today is really mind-blowing. I learned it somewhere in 2011, 2012, when I was working with Adobe Illustrator, and we didn't have at that time any features like create complex patterns. We didn't have AI. So basically I had to do everything myself. And this is where I learned this technique of creating complex patterns. And I'm going to show it to you today. You 100%, you saw all those patterns in messengers, something like WhatsApp, Viber, or Telegram, or just anywhere. You saw those patterns where you see lots of icons or illustrations, just different elements on the background like that. And they look pretty complex, right? They're not simple. And if previously in the previous lessons, we created patterns using some like simple idea where you have just a frame, then you put something inside of this frame, and then that's basically your pattern. It can be text, it can be shape, it can be just anything, but inside of this specific element. But what if you want to create something complex, but at the same time seamless, but at the same time really small size? Because size matters as well for performance, for just easier solutions when you are designing something for mobile applications, for example. So what we're going to do today, we'll create a complex pattern. It will look like that, exactly like here. As you can see that we have lots of icons around, and then this will be our pattern inside. How to create a complex pattern. By the way, today you'll also learn one really cool feature. I never showed it before, and I promise you that 99% of designers don't know it. Maybe 99.9% of designers don't know this thing in Figma, but because this is a Pro Secrets course, you will know it. So let's create a pattern. How to do that? First of all, you need to find something, what exactly you will be putting there. So let's imagine we are taking all these icons. Let's put them here. Then we'll take some smaller icons. You can create icons yourself. It doesn't matter, honestly. So the most important is follow the idea, the mindset behind it. So you have elements, some icons, illustrations. You can add something additionally to that, maybe some just random lines here and there, and here and there. So basically, and here, something like this. And you can create a pattern out of it, right? So let's do that. Let's do that, and let's take a look what will happen. So I'm creating duplicate, rasterize selection, then I create the element, Command Option C, Command Option V, tile, and this is my pattern. The problem is that we have a clear rectangles here, right? So you see these white lines everywhere. We see rectangles, and we don't want to see them. We want to see a seamless, beautiful pattern. So in order to do that, we will use not the technique from the previous lessons, but we will use a new one, a different technique. So you have all these elements here, right? The next thing to do is you duplicate this element to the right, then select both frames, duplicate it to the top. So now you have 4 similar frames, the same frames. And then we'll put these frames into one big frame, Command Option G. Done. Basically, that's exactly what we see here if we just select and do this. But that's not the pattern yet. Now, the thing that 99.9 designers don't know in Figma. How to remove the frame without removing the content inside of it. What do I mean by that? So let's imagine we have a frame. Inside of the frame we have an element, maybe multiple elements, like that. And now I want to keep these elements, but remove the frame itself. If I just press delete, well, everything will be deleted. Another thing what I can do, I can select all the elements inside, like manually, or I can press Command A, move them out and remove the frame, right? But takes time. We are all about efficiency here. I want you to be efficient. I want you to be really fast. I want you to use your brain at your highest capacity, you know, like so it will be so automatic and so you will be so fast in your designs that everyone will be like, what? How did you do that? So how to keep all the elements inside but remove the frame? Select the frame and press Command Backspace or Command Delete. That's it. That's it. Command Backspace. You don't have the frame, you just keep the elements that were inside of the frame, the content of the frame. Got it? So let's get back to our pattern. What I'm going to do right now, when we combined all the frames inside of one big frame, we select all the frames, previous frames. We want to keep the content of the frames inside of our bigger frame that we created, but we want to delete the frames themselves. So we press Command Delete and boom, now I have the frame, but all content is inside of it. And the next thing that I'm going to do, how to remove these white lines? Well, I'll just fill them in with content. That will be something like, I'll put this icon here. In addition to that, I will put maybe a cup somewhere here. Then we will have an additional line on this side, Shift H maybe. Then we'll have an additional element somewhere here. And also what I'm doing right now, I'm filling the space between all these icons and elements. That's what I'm doing. And I can even move this line out and increase the size of this particular icon. And I need to put something here. Definitely, I need to add something inside of this area. Even smaller, like that. Awesome, and maybe one more Bluetooth sign, somewhere on the other side. Done. So now I filled this space inside, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this frame that we had before, that we created before, and I'm going to resize it to the size of the previous frame that we had. The previous frame was 114 by 114, now it's 228. So I'm pressing Command Option Shift. No, not with the scale tool, with the move tool. Command Option Shift and move it down to 114. Done. And this will be our pattern that we'll be using. So now when I take this frame, move it out, clip content, remove the background, object, rasterize selection. And now when I take, let's use it for comparison. I take this element from here, Command C, Command V, remove the previous one, tile, and let's add white color on the background, and it's white. Now let's compare these two patterns. Do you see the difference? Let me make it a little bit smaller so you see the exact difference between them. Do you see the difference? Like the pattern on the right is exactly what we need. That's exactly what we were looking for. Seamless, beautiful, complex pattern. And on the left side, like everything is repeating here, and we see exactly the line. So basically we can see the pattern, while this one looks seamless. And that's the most powerful technique. Let's go it step by step so you understand the idea, and then you will be able to create your patterns super easy and fast. So the first step is you create a pattern, not a pattern, a frame. The size of it you define. You decide what the size will be. 200 by 200, okay. The next thing, what you're gonna do, you create something that will be within the sides of this frame. It can be text. It can be text. You can rotate it if you want to, because usually people really don't know how to create patterns that are rotated. Text, and here our favorite design legends, and it will be much bigger, 26, like that. And we'll also have something like Figma Pro Secrets, and it will be the size 12, something like this. Okay, and now I want to fill this side as well with, I don't know, maybe something like a box, just a square. Why not? All right, and on this side we will create a triangle. Yep, like that, and we'll make them also black. Done. So it can be a pattern itself, but let's go like step by step. First thing, you create a frame with all the elements that you want inside of it. Then step 2, duplicate it in 4 times, like so. You have like a box of 4 elements. Then select all of them and add them. Step 3, put them inside of a bigger frame. Command Option G. Step 4, you select all the frames and remove the frames themselves. Command Delete. It can be a step. Just, you know what I'm going to do now? I'll change it to F555. That's it. So you just created your button. It already looks really good. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to add something in between. Something like circle that connects all the dots together. And also there will be some additional text here that says that you are awesome. And it will be 8. The size of it will be 8 here. And you know what? I'll put it without any rotation. And on the other side, it will be 2023. Cool. I can add something else here, maybe on this side. Here I'll put our design. And the final thing will be here, Academy. And now this was step 5, when you're adding, filling the gaps, adding the elements inside. And the final step, you size down the bigger frame to the previous. So if it was 400, then it will be just half of it, 200 by 200. Once you change the size, keep in mind that everything should be inside to create a pattern, because as you can see, your awesome is outside of our frame. So it means that I need to bring it inside of our new pattern. And that's exactly will be our pattern. So I duplicate it, I click the content, object, rasterize selection, Command Option C, and here I create another element, Command Option V. Looks what? Until we do tile. And now for this tile, we'll make it 25%. And this is our pattern. The problem with this pattern that I see that the squares themselves break the pattern itself. So basically what I'm going to do now, when I don't like the result, I make changes. Yep. So I remove all the squares here. I put all the text and 45 degrees. Oh, it's not 45, 30. Wow, cool. Awesome. So now what do we have here? I see that this circle and triangle are too close to each other. This is what I'm going to do. So now where is our frame? Here it is. Duplicate, clip content, object, rasterize selection, Command Option C, Command Option V, tile, 25%, much better. Much better. In this case, of course, it was randomly created, super fast, with you, without any, preparation before that. But I just want to show you the technique that this is what you can create. You can remove all the shapes here, so it will be just text button. And in this case, it will be really cool when you're creating banners, for example, for the red carpet, for example, or banners for photo studio that will have something in the background, or even if you're creating something like watermark. You know what? Really, like when you're creating a watermark, you will just put the word here that will be across all the photos. People today don't use watermarks at all, but still you can use that if you want to. And by the way, another cool thing here, that For this element, we can create absolutely any background. So it can be here. You can create 1, you can create 2, and you can create 3 and 4. For this, it will be somewhere here. And the final one, by the way, as you can see, they are going in one direction. Done. Then if you connect them together, so you have something really interesting, like the element created out of pattern. And if the size of them will be divisible by 200, I assume that it should connect all of them together. Boom. Done. And of course the height as well. So 200. And now you have the, like, everything is connected here inside, but all of them are different color. And this is how you can play with that. So now go and create your complex pattern and share them online, share them on social media, because it's really cool to show that, not only to show, honestly, the coolest feature that you can do, the coolest thing that you can do is to practice. That's the most important. Practice, create it. Don't watch just the video. It's not a YouTube channel. This is course. And only people who practice actually get something out of the course. So that's why, please practice. Go, because I've showed you all the steps. And now you can create something like this to create patterns for mobile applications, or maybe when you create a package, for package design, it also can be used a lot. So let's imagine that you are creating the element here, then we have done 57-73%. This is isometric view, Command D, then we will rotate it, then we'll put it here. Now I take the box here. Now the next thing that I'm going to do, select this group, Command D, Shift H, move to another side, enter. So if you don't know what I'm doing here, I recommend you to watch the module, bonus module, isometric design. And now I can make it, put here a little bit darker, another one darker, but much darker, like that. So now we have 3 sides of the package. But now what we can do, we can honestly put the package there. Boom. Command C, select all the elements, Command V. No, doesn't work this way. Command V. Okay, done. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, we'll not rotate it the way we want it to be rotated, because in this case, yeah, I'll need to do some other stuff. I'll need to do this. Whoop. A little bit more magic. And it's still not on the side that we need, but it's just because we shifted the sides. So if I press Shift H, everything will be right, but it doesn't work this way here. So then perfect here, and then perfect here. Only this side that we'll need to fix, and this way it will be better and much easier to recreate this particular side and then apply the pattern to this side. But basically this will be our package, and for the package what I'm going to do else, it will be white color, and the background will be something like E3, E5, E9. Done. In addition to that, if I want to, just if I want to, I can create another one here. Remove this element. Boom. Done. do it this way. And this will be our shadow, that will be 999. And this is how you create a package design with wrapped with a paper that has a complex pattern. Mind-blowing, right? But I recommend you to take a look at the isometric design module, and also even in this module I'll show you how also to create the package when we'll be talking about packaging design, how to create the mockup where you'll just add one pattern and it will be applied for absolutely all the sides at once. I hope you liked this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. In this lesson, you will learn how to create icons using Figma, and the icons that you will learn today in this graphic design module, you will be able to use in web design as an illustration, for example, in web application, in any mobile application, in any web application, any TV application. So basically all the icons that you will learn today, you will be able to use absolutely anywhere else. But most importantly, what you will learn today, where the icons came from, a little bit of history of icons, how do they work, how to create and how to find the ideas to create icons yourself. And also I'll show you 3 most important methods in creating absolutely any icon. So first of all, let's take a look at these icons that you see here. So we have lots of hands, hand gestures. Then we have lots of icons, different icons from material design guidelines. You probably heard about feather icons. There are like thousands of icons in today's modern world. But all of them, a little bit of history, all of them came from a physical world. Well, from graphic design mostly, when people decided that there should be a better way to show what people can do here or can do here, even if they don't understand the language. Let's imagine that you came from France to Canada, and then you see this sign here with a woman and man. What does it mean to you? Okay, not like woman and man, no. With 2 people and one of them in a dress and another one is not in a dress. What does it mean for you? Well, most likely you already know that it's washroom or toilet, right? Then let's imagine that you see this sign here, a man and a circle here. What does it mean? Well, a man in a wheelchair, probably it's something about accessibility. And it's really important to understand that all the icons that we have today in the digital world, they came from graphic design of the physical world, and previously in physical world it's called pictogram or pictograph. And pictographs came to us from caves like thousands of years ago. People left their signs in the caves on the rock, and today all the icons that we create basically is the same idea. It's like pictograph or glyph that was typed or not typed in those cases, but basically drawn in a cave or on the rock. And if you take a look at the Egyptian pictographs, you will see like everything that you see here, Egyptian signs, they look, we understand what it means. So everything that we have today in the digital world, all the icons, basically their roots go deep, like thousands of years ago, when people just started creating first languages. And this is how they spoke between each other, because everyone understood their signs, the glyphs, but not exactly the words. And today in digital world, pictographs called icons. So icon is from a digital world. Now, the main idea, you got it, right? So the roots are a real long time ago, and icons are used to show you something that everyone from anywhere from the world will understand without even knowing the language that you're using, because you will be using the language, I mean, like English, German, Japanese. No, when you're using the language of icons, everyone should understand them. Now, 3 methods how to create icons. Honestly, after this, once you understand this concept, everything will become much easier for you. In order to create icons, you use simple shapes. Method 1, you use simple shapes. Method 2, you use simple shapes and Boolean operators. Method 3, you use pen tool. And the final one, it's not like it can be a method. Method 4 is the combination of the first 3. Let me show you. Let's imagine that you want to create a icon favorite contacts. And you just star Shift X 4000 100%. And yeah, well, let's make it just a little bit smaller. So yeah, like that, and rounded corners. Boom. This is the icon that you see when you go to your favorite contacts on your phone, for example. Simple shape, just a star. Let's imagine that you want to create something, I don't know, a little bit more complex. In this case, you will use the simple shape and Boolean operators. Let's imagine that we create a simple shape like circle, and then we'll create a rectangle here, but the top part of the rectangle will have rounded corners like that. And now if I put 24, if I put it one above another one, and now I union selection to make it one shape, you already know what this icon means, right? It's profile. When you go to a mobile phone, it's profile. You can make it a different style as well, and now you have everything like perfectly aligned. You can also select our previous element, and here for these 2 dots we will make also a little bit rounded corners. Done. Now you know how to use Boolean operators. Well, you already know them from the previous module, but this is how you could create one additional icon. The next icon, it can be download. And for download, we use pen tool. And it will be just a line, and we will have an arrow. And now when we align them together, set the same size, now we have download icon using just pen tool. It can be a combination of a pen tool and a simple shape. So we can create a circle, Shift X 4000. We have circle, and then to create a magnifier, I add using the pen tool here, and the right side will be rounded. By the way, to have everything in one style, let's make everything endpoints round. So now we have one more icon here. So it's something like downloadable, something is searchable, something is favoritable, and something is personalized, for example. As you can see, by using just simple shapes and operators, Boolean operators, pen tool, and the combination of these 3, we can create absolutely any icon. And when it comes to something more complex, let's imagine that gear icon for the settings. In this case, you just keep in mind what the gear will consist of, what elements. And the more efficient you will become, the more icons you will try to create, the more icons you will create, the more efficient you will be and the more resourceful you will be. Today you can download and use icons like from absolutely anywhere. But what if you need to create something yourself for your specific project? Because honestly, when I worked at Wargaming in 2015, I created about like 200 different icons for our mobile application because there were no icons for the style that we were looking for. When I worked for the World of Tanks Assistant application and when I designed the World of Tanks Blitz Assistant mobile applications, we had so many elements, items for statistics about the players who play World of Tanks, and we had to show each item with an icon inside of it, like battles, defeat, won, then rating of this person, the tank, how many hits. Oh my god, there were like 200 different icons, and every single time you have to came with an idea how to make it really simple, so when it's really small size, you would be able to recognize them and understand what actually it means. So that's why I can definitely tell you that after those 200 icons and then hundreds of icons later that I create for all other projects, I can tell you that all the icons can be created using this method. Simple shapes, combination of simple shape and Boolean operators, simple shapes and pen tool, just pen tool, or the combination of all of them. Now, let's imagine that you want to create a gear icon or settings icon. How to create that? Create a star, make it with 8 or 6, it depending on what icon you want to create, sides. The next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna create a circle that leaves a little bit of the star outside. In this case, I'll press here intersect selection. So now I have this element. The second thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to create another circle here, like that. Again, align them together, but in this case, I'll click Union Selection. And now I have this icon. And then the final one, I'll create the circle here, like 8 by 8. Subtract selection. And this is how you create this icon. And because I use Boolean operators, every single operation that I did here, they're like group inside of the group inside the group, which means that now I can make any adjustments that I want. For example, I can make this circle a little bit smaller, as well as this one, to change the size of the gear. Then I press Shift X for, oh my god, it's too much. Why so? Mostly because I created it pretty small. So now I'm going just to make it a little bit bigger, and maybe I'll use outside and a little bit inside here. Do we use 4 here? Okay, perfect. So then let's use inside. But what we can do, we can make this icon a little bit smaller, this side, the entire icon a little bit bigger. What I'm doing right now, I'm going to match the style that we already have here on the left side. Then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and maybe I'll take our initial star that we had before, and maybe I'll make this star a little bit bigger. Yep, like that. And looks perfect. Now we have this star and this element, and what I can do now, I can even make rounded corners, so to match the style of everything that we just created. Now you have another icon. And little by little, by practicing it, you will be able to create absolutely any icon. Let's imagine that you want to create a heart icon. So you just create the element something like 20 by 30. So the ratio is 2 by 3. So it will be 20 by 30. You duplicate the shape, rotate it, move it here, then take these corners, then we combine them together, Command E, rotate it. Now I'm trying to make one thing. I select this line, and by holding Shift I select another line and press Delete. Now it's already an element. We add stroke 4, and we add here also a little bit of, you know, rounded corner. And now we have favorite icon. As you can see, using simple shapes like rectangles, ellipses, or circles, stars, and even super simple icon like play icon, like play video. I just rotate, Shift X, 4, rounded corners, the style that we need, a little bit bigger, and a little bit more rounded corners. And now we have the play icon. And then if you want to, out of the play icon, you want to create, maybe you're creating the mobile application that we'll be using. By the way, while, as you can see, it's a graphic design module, but I'm talking here about, not here, but I'm talking here about mobile application. Why so? Because all the icons come to web design, to mobile applications, to TV apps. All of them come from graphic design. Icons are graphic design element. Illustrations are graphic design elements. And then from the graphic design, you take these elements and use them in digital world. Text is also, all the editorial content is also from graphic design. You will see when we'll start talking about creating presentations, you will see that honestly, wow, you can create a presentation, and then out of these slides of the presentation, you can create a website in Swiss style website without adding anything else but maybe buttons and navigation. So basically, it's really important to understand these graphic design concepts. And let's imagine that, again, you are creating something like what I want to say, the player or audio app. In this case, you just create those elements. It can be here double stop, or it can be something like this. And then it's already a group. Command D, Shift H. And congratulations, you just created all the icons for the player by using that. Of course, you could make some changes here. Something like you could take here R, select this element, this one, and subtract selection, and then you have this icon, and in my opinion it looks much better. Now you have all the icons for your player. And so on and so forth. The more you play with icons, the more you take a look at what they already built of. Like, okay, the plane, what it made of? Well, it made of the rectangle with rounded corners, and these sides made of the simple shape again, rectangle, but with added points and that we moved. So in order to create the plane, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create something like this element here, rounded corners, right? Then I'll create another element here. I'll align them. Then for these wings, I'm gonna add 2 additional points here and here, and I'll move these points down like that, and these up like this. Can make it a little bit higher, this a little bit down. And now I take this element, move it down, and just make it smaller. And we'll make some adjustments in order to make it a little bit wider. Like that. This is plain icon. And my recommendation to you, if you want to practice icons, first of all, look at them. Try to understand what they try to represent. And then, without going inside of the icon, try to recreate it. Understand what it consists of. Absolutely every single shape consists of something super simple. Even this card can be created just using 2 circles. Then we will use the pen tool to create something like this. For this specific element, we will make rounded corners. 1. Done. And yeah, for everything here, probably. And then, in addition to that, I'll create the rectangle. And for this rectangle, this side will be inside. And also rounded corners. Like this. Definitely this should be taller to represent, to cover absolutely everything. Then we select all the elements. First of all, we convert the pen, everything that we created with the pen tool, into the shape. Command Shift O. Then we select all elements. Command E to make it one vector tool. And for this, so it will be one color here. That's it. So this is how you create this icon. Of course, I could spend a little bit more time and then it will be exactly like that. But if you want, if it will be easier for you, just go and create everything exactly how it should be here. But my recommendation to you is try to create it outside of the design, because in this case you will be able to practice a little bit more. You will see some inconsistencies, some mistakes, and you will be able to learn from them. If you just copy exactly what is created by someone else, you will practice a little bit, but you will not learn as much as if you start creating it somewhere outside of something that was created. So go and practice. Go and practice. As you can see, just take any icon and learn how to create it. Start from something simple like, okay, what is that? So if I create a circle here, something like that, and then I go into the edit mode, move this down, then make this rounded corner like this, okay, and then I'll subtract this circle from the inside, then I'll have this icon. Wow, cool. How cool is that? Mind-blowing. But what I don't like, that these edges are not rounded enough. You see, I created it separately and I see that something is not perfect. Well, yeah, I trained my eye because I was designing a lot and I see these not rounded corners. and maybe you see them as well. And if you see them, then just perfect. That's exactly what we need. We need to make some adjustments. And the final adjustment that I'm going to make here, I select this element, go to this position, and I move this handle a little bit down to make it a little bit more roundish. Now it's exactly, almost exactly. I need to make this a little bit bigger and down. That's the icon. Okay, that should be still smaller. It should be somewhere here. Awesome, great. So now you know how to create all the icons just by following these simple methods. You understand the history of it. Congratulations. I'll be happy to see you in the next lesson where we'll start creating some illustrations, Google style illustrations. I'm a big fan of Google style illustrations. You'll learn what is that in the next lesson. See you there.